Hello, my name is Lilo Siegel and here's my video on all about sewing easily made. As you know, in life there's always two ways. You can do something very easy or difficult and hard. So what I'm going to do today is I'll show you my way of how to do a double welt pocket really easy. Come on, let's do it. I'll show you all about it.
To do the double welt pocket, you need either the garment where you like to work it into or a leftover piece, which I suggest anyway, in case if you're not so firm with sewing yet. I already done 2 marks where I want to position it. My welt pocket is supposed to be 14 centimeters when it's finished, but I've done the marks just a little bit farther inwards on 13 centimeters apart because I do not want them to show out at the end when the pocket is finished. Further on, for this pocket, of course, you need 2 welts. In the width, if the pocket's supposed to be 14, you got to cut it longer to about 18 centimeters. And the double widths, of course, plus the seams. As you can see over here, I got some interfacing already put on, which makes it easier for me to work with this pocket. You also do need the pocket facing piece, which goes inside then when we've done the first steps on this pocket. So we go to the sewing machine and we do the double welt pocket. All right. The material I've chosen is a quite thin lining. That's why I already ironed an interfacing on the back to make it easier for me to work this pocket into it. You see my points that I, for my 14 centimeter long pocket, slightly put inward as I said before. And I take my first welt. It all depends on you how wide you want to do this welt. I, in my case, decided I want to have it 7 millimeters wide, each of the welts. I'm looking for my dots and I lie the welt right onto it. Now, of course, you have the possibility of working again with some patterns as I showed to you on my first video on the single welt pocket. Of course, you can also just stitch it on, but I show you if you would make in the width exactly as you want this welt a pattern, you would just put it on the ironed edge and stitch it on. But as my pattern here is 1 centimeters wide, it's too wide because I only want a 7 millimeter one. The foot from my sewing machine here is approximately 5 millimeters. As I do have quite a good eye measurement, I just have 2 millimeters standing over, so I do not need a pattern for this pocket. So I start stitching, and again it's very, very important that your first and your last stitch at the end is very firm, so do a good back and forward stitching. Now I go along and I keep on watching that I got my 5 millimeter foot plus a 2 millimeter standing over on the left side. If you have this feeling your material is pushing forward, then you can take the pattern as I just showed, put it under the right foot and stitch it on. Then nothing will be pushed and it will be very flat. And you see here I'm slightly over my point and the first welt is already on. So with my second welt, I lie it slightly over now, as I want to do exactly the same on the other side, a 7 millimeter welt. Again, I put my foot so the material is 2 millimeters over. And now I measure that my in-between space between the 2 seams will be 14 millimeters. Because both sides 7 welt, I need 14 millimeters in between. And you got to watch out that you're exactly even with the first stitches on the top. That is the right ankle. Again, I'm watching 2 millimeters standing over for my foot. And even on the end, you can do another measurement. See if you're still on 14 millimeters in between. That means your 2 welts will immediately match in the middle. And also here, you got to watch that you're in a perfect right angle for this pocket. So that's the worst done already. Now you see, you flop it over. You can check this before you cut it in, that they will join together after you've cut it open. Of course, it's your decision. You don't need to do a 7 millimeter like I do. You can say, okay, I would like to have one welt a little bit smaller and the other one bigger. Then you just change this around as you need. It's no problem. So we got to turn it around. Make sure we will only cut the main material. And if you didn't see my video, my first video on the single welt pocket, I show you again. Mark the last point that you have. So you see exactly that one stitch, the last stitch, and draw a little triangle and draw down the middle. The other side I will not draw. I show you here exactly how to do it. So you cut now with your scissors exactly onto that last stitch, this little triangle. And of course you have to do exactly the same on the other side. In the middle, between your stitching, you stop approximately 1 centimeter before the ending of your stitching, and you cut with your good scissors exactly onto that last stitch. Make sure not to cut through the stitch, but also don't leave anything left over, because then it will pull into the corners. So we're pulling our 2 welts to the left side over and checking, and you see it's practically finished. You got to have this right angle on each side. And in case if you didn't see my video, my first one, I showed you this. If you suddenly think, oh God, what happened here? It's all sideways. No, it's not sideways, only because you haven't pulled it into the right angle. So you flap it over and you stitch your little triangle onto the material. You do the same on this side, exactly in the right angle. Pull it again and hold it on by stitching over in back and forth. You don't want this to open up again. And another little hint, you can always, on those pockets, be in the middle space, which I told you is 14 millimeters. You can be slightly smaller on the in between space, but never more, because if you got too much in between, you would have to fold it over and the pocket will never be correct. So, and now we're already so far that we could stitch the pockets onto it. You could go and iron it first if you want to, but I'm too lazy to go ironing. I'm just going to stitch around the pocket 1 millimeter. So it always nicely lays flat, and practically the pocket is finished then anyway. But of course, if your whole garment got no stitching on the edges anywhere around it, then maybe you should iron it instead of stitching around it. And of course, it doesn't have to be 1 millimeter as I'm doing it here. It could also be 5 millimeter stitching, or 7, or whatever you decide on how to do your garment. So you see, practically it's finished. So now we take our pocket facing piece, which I've chosen in the main material, as I'd like to have this in this contrast. Not only I did this so you can better see this on this video, I also sometimes like to work with contrasts for different clothes that I make. So you see, you just lie it onto the top, flap it around, fold this piece back, and now go nice and tight against your stitching that you've just done before, and stitch the pocket facing piece onto this. That's it. Now, of course, you see how nicely it is if you don't have a zipper in there, if it's really just a normal double welt pocket, that this is a really nice contrast, that you can see the main material again in the open pocket there. So now you can, of course, put your linings, your pocket linings against on the back, which you got prepared for whichever size. You stitch one onto there, the smaller one, and the longer one onto there, and then you close the pocket and it's finished. That's how easy it is. Well, I hope you did enjoy this video. Keep on looking in for all my new ones that I will put on for you. And enjoy sewing because it's really nice and easy. Thank you. Bye bye. Till next time.